The unconventional design. The harsh fluorescent lights of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters cast long shadows across the presentation hall as Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Military Advisory Board. Her heart raced, but her voice remained steady as she gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing a ship design unlike anything the board had ever seen. "This is the Phoenix," she announced, her words echoing through the silent chamber. The projected image showed a vessel that seemed to defy conventional spacecraft design. Instead of the standard rigid metallic hull, the Phoenix's surface appeared almost organic, covered in what looked like overlapping scales that shifted and rippled in the simulation. Admiral Viktor Petrov, chairman of the board, leaned forward in his seat, his weathered face contorting in barely concealed disdain. "Dr. Chen, are you suggesting we invest billions in a warship that looks like a fish?" Laughter rippled through the chamber. Sarah had expected this reaction, but it still stung. She had spent 5 years developing the biomimetic hull technology, drawing inspiration from nature's most resilient creatures. "With respect, Admiral," she continued, keeping her voice level, "nature has spent billions of years perfecting defensive mechanisms. The Phoenix's hull isn't just armor, it's a living system. Each scale contains millions of nanomachines that learn and adapt to incoming attacks." "Preposterous," General Maria Santos interrupted, tossing her tablet onto the table. "Warships need armor, shields, and weapons. Not, whatever this isn't some science experiment, Dr. Chen. We're facing real threats out there." Sarah activated the next phase of her presentation. The hologram showed a simulation of the Phoenix under attack. Energy weapons struck its hull, but instead of deflecting or absorbing the impacts, the scales seemed to analyze the attack pattern, shifting and reorganizing in response. "The Phoenix doesn't just defend against attacks," Sarah explained, her confidence growing. "It learns from them. Each hit makes the hull stronger, more resistant. The nanomachines analyze the weapon's signature and develop countermeasures in real time. And when these nanomachines fail," Admiral Petrov challenged, "when they malfunction and leave our crews exposed to vacuum. The system has redundancies built into every level," Sarah countered. "Each scale operates independently. Even if multiple sections are damaged, the surrounding areas compensate. It's like a starfish regenerating a lost limb, but at a molecular level." The board members exchanged skeptical glances. Sarah could see she was losing them. She had one last chance to make them understand. "Look at our current fleet," she urged. "We build bigger guns, stronger shields, faster engines, but we're still thinking in straight lines while nature thinks in circles. Evolution has created organisms that can survive in the harshest environments imaginable. Why not learn from that?" "Because we're not building organisms, Dr. Chen," Admiral Petrov said firmly. "We're building warships. Your research is impressive, but it's not what we need. The Defense Force requires proven technology, not theoretical." A sudden commotion at the back of the chamber interrupted him. A junior officer burst through the doors, face flushed with urgency. He rushed to Admiral Petrov, whispering something in his ear. The Admiral's face paled. "This session is adjourned," he announced abruptly, rising from his seat. "Dr. Chen, your proposal is denied. We'll be proceeding with conventional designs for the fleet expansion." As the board members filed out, Sarah noticed they were moving with unusual haste. Something had happened, something that had rattled even the unflappable Admiral Petrov. She began gathering her materials when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Looking up, she found herself face to face with Dr. Marcus Wong, the board's technical advisor. Unlike the others, he hadn't laughed at her design. "They're scared of what they don't understand," he said quietly. "But fear is a luxury we may not be able to afford much longer." He glanced at the doors where the board members had disappeared. "How close are you to having a working prototype?" Sarah hesitated. "The basic hull technology is ready for testing. I have a small-scale model in my lab, but without funding." "What if I told you there was another way?" Marcus looked around to ensure they were alone. I have access to a private research facility. Off the books, if your design works like you say it does." He left the sentence hanging. "Why?" Sarah asked. "Why help me when everyone else thinks I'm crazy?" Marcus's expression grew grave. "Because I've seen the deep space sensor readings they don't want to declassify. Something's out there, Dr. Chen. Something big. And I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get." Sarah looked at her tablet, still displaying the Phoenix's design. 5 years of work, ridiculed and dismissed in minutes. But maybe that didn't matter. Maybe what mattered was that one person believed it could work. "When do we start?" she asked. Marcus smiled grimly. "How fast can you pack up your lab?" As they left the chamber, neither of them noticed the strange shimmer in the air near the ceiling, a distortion that seemed to follow their movements with invisible eyes. High above Earth's atmosphere, hidden from human sensors, something vast and ancient stirred, watching, waiting, and calculating. The real test of Sarah's design would come sooner than anyone expected. And it wouldn't be in a simulation. First contact gone wrong. 3 months after the Defense Board meeting, Sarah stood in the control room of Marcus's private facility, buried deep within the lunar dark side. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the Phoenix prototype taking shape in the massive construction bay. Even at 1/4 scale, the vessel's biomimetic hull caught the harsh work lights in fascinating ways, its surface rippling slightly as the nanomachines performed their endless maintenance cycles. "Latest simulation results are in," Marcus announced, sliding a tablet across the monitoring station. "The adaptive response rate is improving. Each test shows a 12% faster reaction to new threat patterns." Sarah was about to respond when every screen in the control room suddenly flickered. The lights dimmed, then brightened, and a low-frequency hum filled the air. Through the window, she watched as the Phoenix's hull began shifting more rapidly, its scales realigning in complex patterns she'd never seen before. "What's triggering it?" she demanded, rushing to the nearest console. "I didn't authorize any tests." "It's not us," Marcus replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "The reaction is autonomous. The hull is responding to something." The facility's main display activated without command, showing a view of Earth orbit. A massive object was materializing, seeming to step out of nowhere like a swimmer breaking the surface of a pool. It was beautiful and terrifying. A ship nearly 5 kilometers long, its surface covered in what looked like living crystal. "Alert status," a calm computerized voice announced throughout the facility. "Unknown vessel detected in Earth orbit. All personnel to emergency stations." Sarah couldn't tear her eyes from the alien ship. Its crystalline surface pulsed with internal light, creating patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. As she watched, smaller vessels began emerging from its sides, each one a perfect geometric shape that shouldn't have been able to fly. "They're broadcasting," Marcus reported, his voice tight. "All frequencies, all languages. They must have been monitoring our communications for some time." The message played through the facility's speakers, the alien voice somehow both musical and mechanical. "People of Earth, we are the Vorkath. We have watched your development with great interest. Your species stands at a crucial threshold. We come to offer guidance, to help you take your next evolutionary step." "They're approaching the orbital defense platforms," Sarah noted, watching the smaller ships spread out in a perfect formation. "Why aren't we responding? Where's the defense force?" As if in answer, the main communications channel crackled to life with Admiral Petrov's voice. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. Hold your position until diplomatic protocols can be established. Any advancement will be considered a hostile act." The alien response came immediately, still melodious, but with an undertone that made Sarah's skin crawl. "Such fear, such aggression. This is why you need our guidance. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us. Accept our help, and we will show you a better way." "Marcus," Sarah whispered, "check the Phoenix's readings. The hull patterns, they're not random. They're reacting to something we can't detect. Before Marcus could respond, the alien ship's crystalline surface flared with blinding light. In that same instant, every defense platform in Earth orbit went dark. Emergency alerts blared as power grids across the planet's surface began failing in a cascading wave. An electromagnetic pulse, Marcus realized. But unlike anything we've ever seen. They just disabled our entire defense network with a single shot. Not everything, Sarah corrected, pointing to the construction bay. The Phoenix floated serenely, its hull still shifting in those strange patterns. Look, no power loss. No system failures. It adapted. It protected itself. This is Earth Defense Command. Admiral Petrov's voice returned, now heavy with strain. Our primary systems are down. All remaining forces, implement Protocol Omega. I repeat. His transmission cut off as another pulse swept through Earth's orbit. More alien ships were appearing now, their crystalline surfaces brightening as they prepared to fire again. Their technology, Sarah breathed, watching the data stream from the Phoenix's sensors. It's not just advanced, it's alive. Those aren't ships, they're organic machine hybrids, just like the Phoenix, Marcus finished. You weren't creating a new type of warship, Sarah. You were reinventing something they already perfected. Sarah shook her head, her eyes fixed on the prototype. No, not reinventing, evolving. Their tech is alive, yes, but it's rigid, predetermined. The Phoenix learns, adapts, changes. She turned to Marcus, her expression hardening. And right now, it's the only thing we have that might stand a chance. Above them, the Vorkath ships began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with that hypnotic light. But in the lunar facility's construction bay, the Phoenix's hull had stopped its random shifting. Its scales now moved with purpose, preparing for a confrontation that would determine the fate of two civilizations. The true test of Sarah's design was about to begin. And this time, no one was laughing. Phoenix rising. We need to launch now, Sarah insisted, her fingers flying across the prototype's initialization console. Around her, the lunar facility's emergency lights cast everything in a blood-red glow. Every minute we wait is another minute they have to establish orbital superiority. Marcus stood at the facility's main viewport, watching the Vorkath ships methodically disable Earth's remaining orbital defenses. Each crystalline vessel moved with perfect precision, their formations creating complex geometric patterns that seemed to channel energy between them. The prototype's never been tested in actual combat, he warned. We don't know if the neural networks can handle real-world stress. One miscalculation. Look at what they're doing, Sarah interrupted, pointing to the tactical display. The alien ships had begun generating massive energy fields around Earth's major cities. Those aren't attack patterns. They're containment grids. They're not here to destroy us. They're here to cage us. The facility shuddered as another electromagnetic pulse swept through the lunar surface. But unlike the first attack, this one felt targeted, probing. The Vorkath knew something was hidden here. They can sense the Phoenix, Sarah realized, watching the prototype's hull ripple in response to the alien scan. The biomimetic systems recognize their technology. It's like they're speaking the same language. A new transmission cut through the emergency channels, the Vorkath's haunting voice filling the control room. We detect an anomaly in your lunar installation. You attempt to replicate our sacred evolution. This is forbidden. Surrender the abomination, and your species' punishment will be lessened. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Sacred evolution. They think they own the right to adapt, to grow. She turned to Marcus, her eyes blazing. Get me inside the Phoenix. Now. Sarah, wait. Marcus began, but she was already moving toward the airlock. He rushed after her, catching her arm. The neural interface hasn't been properly calibrated. Trying to synchronize with the ship's systems could fry your brain. The interface was designed to learn from human consciousness, she replied, pulling free. Well, It's time to give it something to learn from. The hull's already shown it can resist their attacks. We just need to teach it how to fight back. Above them, the Vorkath ships began moving into attack position around the lunar facility. Their crystalline surfaces pulsed with building energy, preparing to unleash something far more destructive than mere electromagnetic pulses. Sarah reached the Phoenix's entry hatch, the biomimetic hull parting smoothly to accept her. Inside, the ship was unlike any conventional vessel. There were no rigid control panels or traditional displays. Instead, the walls seemed alive, covered in the same shifting scales as the exterior. Neural interface initiating, the ship's AI announced as Sarah settled into the adaptation chamber. Fluid biomechanical tendrils emerged from the walls, connecting with the neural ports that had been surgically implanted at the base of her skull during the prototype's development. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Sarah's vision exploded with colors she had no names for as her consciousness merged with the Phoenix's systems. She felt every scale, every nanomachine, every quantum calculation, as if they were extensions of her own nervous system. Through the haze of neural integration, she heard Marcus's voice from the control room. Vorkath vessels firing. Some kind of quantum displacement beam. The attack struck the facility with devastating force. But instead of destroying the prototype, something extraordinary happened. The Phoenix's hull didn't just resist the quantum beam, it began to replicate it. The scales shifted and reformed, analyzing the weapon's fundamental properties and incorporating them into their own structure. Sarah felt it all through the neural link. The ship wasn't just learning. It was evolving, moment by moment, combining human intuition with machine precision in ways the Vorkath had never imagined. Impossible. The alien transmission crackled with what could only be described as fear. The abomination. It surpasses its own design parameters. This cannot be permitted. More quantum beams lanced out from the Vorkath ships, but now the Phoenix was ready. Its hull didn't just absorb the attacks, it reflected them, enhanced them, turned them back against their sources. Where the alien vessels were rigid in their perfection, the Phoenix flowed like water, each movement guided by the combined creativity of human and machine. "That's right," Sarah whispered through gritted teeth, pushing through the neural interface's burning pain. "You made your technology perfect. We made ours adaptable. Let's see which approach works better." The prototype rose from the lunar facility, its hull blazing with absorbed energy. The Vorkath ships retreated, their perfect formations wavering for the first time. They had come expecting to find primitive technology, easily dominated. Instead, they had awakened something entirely new. Human ingenuity merged with living metal, guided by the one force their rigid evolution had never accounted for: the human capacity to improvise, to imagine, to transcend their own limitations. The real battle was about to begin. And this time, humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were fighting back with something that grew stronger with every attack. The Phoenix had risen, and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history adapting to survive. The counterstrike. The neural interface burned like fire in Sarah's mind as she guided the Phoenix through the debris field of destroyed Vorkath scout ships. Each movement sent cascades of information through her consciousness: sensor data, tactical analyses, and the constant evolution of the ship's biomimetic systems. Above Earth, the main Vorkath fleet had begun to break their perfect formation, adjusting to this unexpected threat. "Dr. Chen," Admiral Petrob's voice cut through the tactical channel, strained but clear. "Our long-range sensors are back online. Whatever you're doing up there, it's working. Their suppression field is weakening." Through the Phoenix's enhanced sensors, Sarah could see the truth. The prototype hadn't just survived the Vorkath attacks, it had learned to disrupt the aliens' quantum network. Each successful adaptation sent ripples through their crystalline technology, forcing them to expend energy maintaining their rigid perfection. "Send the data to Earth Defense Command," she managed through gritted teeth, fighting the neural interface's overwhelming input. The Phoenix's analyzers have mapped their entire technological architecture. They're not invincible. They're just stuck. Marcus's voice came through from the lunar facility. Sarah, your neural patterns are reaching critical levels. The interface wasn't designed to handle this much adaptive load. You need to disconnect before. No time, she interrupted, watching new Vorkath ships emerge from their flagship's crystalline hangars. Their technology is alive, but it's trapped in predetermined patterns. They can't innovate. They can only optimize what they already know. That's why they're so afraid of us. We can imagine things they've never seen before. As if to prove her point, the Phoenix's hull began to shift in impossible ways, its scales forming new configurations that existed somewhere between organic and mechanical. The ship wasn't just copying Vorkath technology anymore. It was reimagining it, combining alien principles with human creativity to create something entirely new. Unprecedented abomination. The Vorkath commander's transmission carried genuine horror now. You corrupt the pure path of evolution with your chaos, your disorder, your imagination. Sarah laughed despite the pain. You don't understand evolution at all. It's not about reaching perfection. It's about never stopping to grow, to change, to dream of something better. The Phoenix surged forward, its hybrid systems now fully awakened. Where the Vorkath ships moved in rigid geometric patterns, the prototype flowed like liquid metal, each movement unpredictable yet precise. Their quantum beams splashed harmlessly against its adaptive hull, while the Phoenix's counterattacks grew more devastating with each exchange. Dr. Chen. Admiral Petrov's voice returned, this time with an edge of hope. We're detecting widespread failures in their containment grid. Earth Defense Command is bringing weapons back online, but our conventional arms are still ineffective. Upload the Phoenix's tactical data to every ship in the fleet, Sarah commanded. The biomimetic principles can be adapted to existing systems, not as effectively as a purpose-built vessel, but enough to give us a fighting chance. Marcus interjected urgently. Sarah, the neural load is approaching lethal levels. Your brain can't handle much more of this integration. He was right. Sarah could feel her consciousness beginning to fragment under the strain of processing so much evolutionary data. But through the chaos, she saw something the others couldn't. A pattern within patterns, a flaw in the Vorkath's perfect design. Their whole civilization is built on the idea of achieving and maintaining perfection, she realized aloud. But perfection is static, unchanging. Dead. That's why they fear us so much. We embrace imperfection. We take risks. We make mistakes and learn from them. Her voice trailed off as the Phoenix's sensors detected a massive energy buildup within the Vorkath flagship. Its crystalline surface was reconfiguring, countless facets aligning into what could only be a planet-killing weapon. You leave us no choice, the alien commander declared. Your species' chaotic evolution must end. We will sterilize this system and begin anew with more compliant life forms. Through the neural interface, Sarah felt the Phoenix's systems responding to her desperate inspiration. The ship's hull began to vibrate at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible, setting up harmonics that rippled through space itself. Admiral, she transmitted to Earth Defense Command, prepare the fleet for a coordinated strike. I'm sending targeting data now. We're going to show them why perfection is a weakness, and why humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to improvise. As the Vorkath flagship's weapon reached critical charge, Sarah pushed the neural interface beyond its safety limits. If she was right, she was about to prove that humanity's chaotic evolution was exactly what the universe needed. If she was wrong, well, being wrong and learning from it was the most human thing she could do. The final battle for Earth's future was about to begin, and its outcome would depend not on achieving perfection, but on embracing the beautiful chaos of human innovation. Evolution's edge. The void between Earth and its moon erupted with impossible energies as the Vorkath flagship's weapon reached full power. Its crystalline surface had transformed into a perfect geodesic sphere, each facet channeling enough quantum energy to shatter a planet's crust. But in that crucial moment, as the aliens prepared to demonstrate their ultimate expression of technological perfection, the Phoenix struck. Sarah's consciousness was barely holding together under the neural interface's strain, but she pushed through the pain, guiding the prototype ship in a maneuver that defied conventional physics. The Phoenix's hull vibrated at precisely calculated frequencies, setting up harmonic resonances that rippled through space-time itself. "All Earth defense vessels," she transmitted, her voice raw with effort. "Execute attack pattern Phoenix Alpha on my mark. Target the frequencies I'm sending, not where their ships are, but where they're trying to be perfect." Through the prototype's enhanced sensors, she could see the Earth fleet moving into position. Each ship's systems had been hastily modified with elements of her biomimetic technology, not as advanced as the Phoenix, but enough to participate in what she hoped would be the decisive strike. "Your resistance is futile," the Vorkath commander declared, though there was something new in their voice. "Uncertainty. We have achieved perfection. Our evolution is complete. You cannot." "That's exactly your problem," Sarah interrupted, even as blood began to trickle from her nose. "You think evolution has an endpoint. You think you can reach some final, perfect form. But that's not how it works. Life isn't about achieving perfection. It's about never stopping to grow, to change, to imagine new possibilities." The Phoenix's hull shifted again, but this time it wasn't just adapting to enemy weapons. It was implementing Sarah's desperate gamble, using the Vorkath's own drive for perfection against them. The prototype began emitting complex wave patterns that interfered with the aliens' crystalline technology, creating discord in their perfectly ordered systems. What are you doing?" The alien commander's transmission carried genuine fear now. "These patterns, they'd violate the sacred symmetries. They violate your assumptions," Sarah corrected. "Evolution isn't a ladder to climb. It's not about reaching some predetermined peak. It's about adaptation, diversity, finding new ways to survive and thrive. And humanity? We've spent our entire history adapting, improvising, imagining things that had never existed before." The Phoenix's disruption field expanded, amplified by the coordinated efforts of Earth's modified fleet. Where it touched the Vorkath ships, their crystal surfaces began to vibrate, their perfect geometries struggling to maintain coherence. "Mark," Sarah commanded, and the human fleet opened fire. Their weapons, guided by the Phoenix's targeting data, struck the Vorkath vessels at precisely the moments when they were trying to maintain their rigid perfection. The effect was devastating. Unable to adapt to these chaotic yet calculated attacks, the alien ships began to shatter, their crystalline forms breaking along planes of supposed perfection. The flagship's planet-killing weapon faltered, its carefully aligned facets disrupted by the harmonic assault. The massive energy buildup had nowhere to go except back into the vessel's own systems. The perfect sphere began to crack, lines of blazing light spreading across its surface. You destroy perfection itself." The Vorkath commander's voice was incredulous. "Everything we have built, everything we have become. We're not destroying anything," Sarah replied, even as the neural interface threatened to overwhelm her consciousness. "We're showing you a different way. Evolution isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming better again and again without end. It's about having the courage to break old patterns and try new things." The flagship's crystalline surface was failing catastrophically now, its rigid perfection unable to contain the chaos of its own weaponry. But through the Phoenix's sensors, Sarah detected something extraordinary. Portions of the alien vessel were beginning to adapt, to change, to flow in new patterns that mimicked the biomimetic technology they had so recently condemned. "Emergency protocols enacted," a new voice announced from the Vorkath command channel. "Initiating emergency adaptation sequences. Commander, you are relieved. Sarah smiled through the pain as she realized what was happening. The younger Vorkath, faced with extinction, were choosing survival over stagnation. They were choosing to evolve. The flagship's weapon collapsed in on itself, its energy dispersing harmlessly into space. Across the battlefield, the remaining Vorkath vessels began to change, their rigid crystalline forms becoming more fluid, more adaptive. They were learning, growing, breaking free from the constraints of their supposed perfection. "This is unprecedented," the new Vorkath speaker transmitted. "We request cessation of hostilities. We would learn from you." Sarah's vision was growing dark around the edges as the neural interface reached critical levels, but she had enough consciousness left to see her victory, not just for humanity, but for the principle of endless adaptation itself. "Stand down," she ordered the Earth fleet, "and prepare to receive evolutionary consultants." As emergency teams rushed to extract her from the Phoenix's neural interface, Sarah caught a final glimpse of the transformed battlefield. Human ships and reformed Vorkath vessels hung in space together, their surfaces reflecting starlight in ever-changing patterns. Perfect order had given way to beautiful chaos, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. The Phoenix, humanity's greatest gamble, had proven that the true power of evolution lay not in achieving perfection, but in never stopping to dream of what might come next. And as Sarah finally lost consciousness, she smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of a whole new chapter in the story of life itself.